Hello and welcome back to the RevOps Show. Things look a little different around here. Since the last time you listened in or saw us, we changed our company name. Nothing else has changed. We've just updated from Imagine to Lift, as that better encompasses what we do and why we exist. If you want to read the full story, go to our show notes and click on the story in the additional resources. But in the time that we were gone, we missed you all over the short break that we took as we made room to record a few more episodes for the beginning of this year, and I ended up being out of the office as I was moving from Texas back to Virginia. But now that we're all back, we are ready to rock and roll right into this episode on HubSpot versus Salesforce. There's a lot of people that are biased to one platform over the other, and today it is time to break things down and figure out when it makes sense to use one over the other.
Jess.
Doug.
Did you hear the opening music?
I did. I heard it.
Just making sure because you kind of had a delayed reaction. It looked like you weren't ready.
Oh, I'm ready. I mean, we're doing this whether I'm ready or not. So.
Jess, I thought you were always ready.
I'm always ready. Always.
Jess, it's the first podcast of 2023.
It is. It is.
What's that behind you?
New year, new name.
What's that? You guys changed your name?
You guys. Yeah, yes, us guys did.
We are Lyft now.
We are. New year, new name.
Does that mean next year we need another new name?
No. No.
Although actually, Jess, I got to tell you, I think we're actually going to change the name. I'm serious.
What are we going to change it to?
I think it needs to be Lyft AI.
No, it does not.
No, I think it does. I think we could raise a lot more money if it was Lyft AI.
I'm sure we could. I'm sure we could raise some money along with hijinks.
I think it'll make us more attractive to prospective buyers. It'll help with FOMO.
This, what's firing right now? It's your entrepreneurial brain. It's firing on all cylinders right now.
Lyft AI, doesn't that?
They'll like me better. They'll give me more money.
They'll invite me to their parties. I'll get invited to better parties.
I'll get to be with the cool kids. Yeah, exactly. Let's do it.
I mean, 2023 is all about AI. Or should it be Lyft GPT?
No, should not be.
So just Lyft AI?
Yeah, let's go with Lyft AI. We'll change it next week.
And then, you know what will change along with it?
What? Our chief of staff?
Oh my gosh, no.
No?
Our project management tool.
Oh, God. Yeah, that will get me to quit. You really want me to leave.
I mean, we're a new company. We got a new name. Don't you need a new project management tool to stay in alignment?
We've talked about this.
I mean,
that is the one thing that will get me to walk is if we change our project management tool again.
I mean, Jess, you have to think of it this way, right? We've changed our name. We've changed the name of the company more recently than we changed our project management system.
Yes, that is true. And
that seems out of whack.
That will always stay that way, hopefully. Unless a really good reason to switch the project management tool.
Entertainment's not a really good reason?
See, there's that entrepreneur brain of yours firing off again. No,
I don't think that's entrepreneurial. I think that's more just
a little bit.
I don't know if it's entrepreneurial or it's just my
just your brain.
Yeah, I'm not the only person that enjoys watching things explode.
I know.
You know, my favorite thing when I was a DJ, when I had to do all the stupid line dance stuff like Macarena and shit like that, is I'd play with the pitch control, right? And so I'd speed it up I'd slow it down, I'd speed it up, and the whole goal was that really before you knew it, people were like running into each other as they were doing their stuff back. It was hilarious. I mean, if I had to play those damn songs, then I might as well.
I'm not surprised by any of this, by anything that you're telling me right now. But I mean, that's a little bit of a social experiment that I could see you running. Let's see what they do.
Yeah, I had the end of my DJ career was I had a rule that I didn't play songs twice. Now, there was always the exception to the rule, which was if you paid me, then I would consider it. Right. So I actually had someone pay me $100 to play a song because I'd already played it earlier. They paid me $100.
Did you play it?
So for $100. Damn right I did.
Or did you just consider it? Well, you said you would consider it for. You didn't say you.
Oh, you know, for $100. I mean, look. I mean, the truth is, for $100, I would have played it back to back.
Okay.
I'm just saying. So anyway, so someone wanted Vogue, and I already played Vogue. And they're like, they go, is there anything I can do to get you to play it? I'm like, yeah. I mean, you give me a tip. They're like, well, how much? I said, I don't know, $20. Like, I can't believe you're asking for that. They went and complained to the manager of the restaurant bar that I was working at. And the manager comes over and says, and you have to understand too, like when I started at this bar, it was it was a slow night. It wasn't doing things. So I mean, bartenders loved me because I kept people there long, filled the place up, etc. So Juan comes over and says, Doug, why won't you play Vogue? I said, I already played it. You know, I don't play songs twice. I already played. Come on, man, just play the song. I looked at him and I said, Juan, how about I won't tell you how to manage the restaurant? You don't tell me how to DJ. And then he said, look, Doug, I'm the manager. I want the song played. Play the song. I said, okay, no problem. I played the song. Followed up Vogue with, and no one listening is probably going to remember this song, MC 900 Foot Jesus, City Sleeps. It was just, and so I just played like crazy alternative music for the rest of the night. And that was the last time I DJed. And like I was there 4 weeks. I was at the bar 4 weeks later and I was like, what? How come we haven't seen you? I'm like, seriously, Juan? Yeah, that's how my DJ career ended. It was a side thing I did.
Yep.
It was a side thing I did. And I always said, you know what? As long as I have more fun doing it than not doing it, the day that I have more fun not doing it is the day I'll stop. And that's when I stop.
And you're still kind of a DJ because you play our musical selections at the top of our team meetings. There we go. There it is.
Yep.
But we're not here today to talk about your DJ career. That is not the topic of. No, that's not the topic of the episode.
How did we get to that? So what are we talking about, DJ? Jess?
So you and I were talking earlier this week, and you were pointing out that there's some rumblings on LinkedIn, and so we wanted to talk about Salesforce or HubSpot. So
today. Yeah, there's this whole craze. I mean, I'm like, I don't know whether I want to do this or not because it's so. I mean, it's just boring, actually, honestly. Also, we've gotten some good feedback on. Seems to be some buzz from our 5-part series of what to expect when expecting CRM implementation. And wow, cultish experience.
Why do you say that?
So it's like, and I guess it's the LinkedIn thing. I guess it's what you're supposed to do. What was it Twilight? Was that the vampire movie? You were team one or the other? I don't.
Was it? Team Jacob, or I don't know what the other guy's name is.
Yeah, and so it's like your team HubSpot or your team Salesforce, and so you got, and there's no question from a volume standpoint. There's no question. Sorry, there's no question there from a volume standpoint. HubSpot has more people on Team HubSpot, but you've got people out there on Team Salesforce. And the question is, well, I'm actually seeing people saying right now, is Salesforce viable? Which is just, and look, some of the people who are listening who are on the HubSpot bandwagon and have done your LinkedIn posts on that, I realize that you're not saying that, right? So I don't want everyone that's, but there are some that are like, Salesforce laid off 10% of their workforce. That's proof that they're no longer. It's like, what in the, so yeah, it's so there's a cultishness in the sense that you're either, it's like, I guess you either have to bleed cloud blue or orange, right?
And you're saying that's on both sides, right? Because you're talking about it heavily on the HubSpot side, but you're saying also on the Salesforce side, there's that advocacy and love.
So I think unquestionably the love is on the HubSpot side.
Okay.
There's definitely advocacy, but it's yeah, so you're either, Salesforce is the book of it. Salesforce is always right. Anybody, if you're serious about scale, this, or there, there's a whole group that's, ride the HubSpot wave, and this used to be true. And look, there's no question that HubSpot has put themselves at a level in a conversation. Heck, our entire business is driven by the legitimate move up market. And look, if we're on a team, we're on Team HubSpot.
Right.
But one of my, I should say two things. We're on Team HubSpot, but we're kind of like on the, we're kind of like a booster of team, like we're on the booster club or we're a booster member or something. And that, HubSpot is a company that has owners. I'm one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They have shareholders, right? I'm a shareholder.
Right.
They serve that group, right? They have, they don't wake up every day and say, what can we do to make Lyft enablement more money today? Right? That's not what they do. They do not. They do not. And so, I'm careful. HubSpot has definitely, what's the word? Activated a reseller network, a partner structure. Like, nobody in the tech space has, and I think from a pure revenue standpoint and even a indispensability standpoint, I think there could be some people that would push back very heavily because you've got Google partners that are core. Though Google is extraordinarily successful on the straight B2C side, obviously, where that doesn't play, but you've got all kinds of Google expertise. Microsoft had an extraordinarily powerful, still does, has an extraordinarily powerful reseller channel, SAP, et cetera. Now the thing that's different, and it's not to say that these resellers didn't sell, didn't recommend, didn't lead to new sales, but HubSpot really is only in the last really 12-ish, maybe 18 months, really come to understand and begin to embrace the idea that there's a value in partners outside of them bringing new business. So, right. HubSpot activated a SaaS partner channel in a way no one, at least in this, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, Quicken has done although Quicken embraced accountants, and that certainly had impact. But I don't think that accountants had the same level of impact from a partner standpoint that HubSpot partners had in serving as a commission-only, no-risk channel to drive sales, to drive new business acquisition.
Right.
The Salesforce implementation partner ecosystem has always been much more on service delivery and management and, implementation, managed services, et cetera. So, the truth of the matter is that you've got an element of the HubSpot partner component. And I think it's probably more than half. They're a franchise network. That's how on board they are. And so you see a lot of companies that have, like if you look at their messaging, if you look at their positioning, if you look at their website, it is, like HubSpot is the lead. HubSpot's the lead, right? And I'm a believer that, well, I think when you do that, that's kind of when you begin to become a franchisee. And I also think that it also, it opens up some challenges from an advisory perspective. So I don't, like, I believe that, for us and the equivalent of others, what is our value proposition? And if our value proposition is only a subset of HubSpot, then we are tactical. Where we like the difference between a strategic implementer and a tactical implementer is, I mean, to some degree, what level of objectivity do you have?
Yeah.
And realizing that, I think we take a pretty agnostic, pretty objective approach,
right?
But we're not objective, right? I mean, it favors us when people are favorable to HubSpot. We are positioned to HubSpot. That's where our deep expertise is. But we also say and are willing to talk about, when is HubSpot not the right solution? And so when I think, when you look at HubSpot and Salesforce, and you can probably look at some others, but like if you're a legitimate HubSpot implementer and you don't understand legitimately the where, the why, the what of when Salesforce is where does this play to Salesforce's strengths and where Salesforce is a better option versus, and at the same time, if you're a Salesforce implementer and you don't understand legitimately when HubSpot would be better, then, or when HubSpot would be, strongly viable and vice versa. It kind of reminds me, what I'm seeing kind of reminds me of, when I was heavily involved in coaching, some of my philosophies of coaching. So like, I know we talked about this, but let's pretend we hadn't in our preparation for today. So I'm going to ask everybody else out there that's listening, do you know what the number one contributor to being a great coach? Like, what's the number one thing if you want to be a great coach to have? Jess, do you want to share?
Great players.
Great players, right? Right.
Great players.
Like, hey, if I want to be a great baseball coach, I'm going to be a lot better if I can start off with having the best players. If I want to be a great business coach, right, it'd be nice if I can start right. Now, I'm not saying the best players. That's the only, and like I'll never forget when I was coaching youth baseball. There was this person who had coached in the organization who was, I mean, legendary is an overstatement, but within the pantheon of a youth sports organization was legendary. I'm like, wow. And of course, he had coached baseball and I was coaching baseball. And I then learned that Mark Teixeira, the all-star first baseman who played for the New York Yankees, Texas Rangers, et cetera, he was on his team, right? And let me tell you, 12-year-old Mark Teixeira, he was pretty damn good. And I thought to myself, you know what? None of my guys here are Mark Teixeira. And if I had Mark Teixeira on the team, that would help, right?
Yeah.
And so God, I can't remember the name of the guy who did this. He was Alabama football coaches. Pretty sure he coached at Alabama. Who is it? Bill Curry. Pretty sure it's Bill Curry. So Bill Curry was on. He was guest hosting on Mike and Mike in the Morning when I heard him talk about this. And he talked about Bear Bryant. He talked about coaching up against Bear Bryant. And he said, here's how you knew Bear Bryant was one of the greatest coaches of all time. He said he could beat you with his, he could beat your team with his and his team with yours, which meant he could beat your term with his players and his team with your players. So, one of the things that we strive is to say, is to be very serious. In what situation is Salesforce the better choice? And if I was focused on Salesforce, I would be asking, the same thing versus HubSpot. When we advise with sales organizations and salespeople, one of my favorite questions is, if you were selling for a competitor, how would you beat you?
Yeah.
Right. And it's disappointing how few salespeople can answer that question.
Well, because nobody thinks
Right?
about that. Yeah.
Right. And so you get into this really boring element of, you're either on Team HubSpot or you're on Team Salesforce, and you have this back and forth, and everything becomes, completely reductive in a way. So I thought it would be worthwhile, since Twitter limits you to 280 characters. No one's quite reading posts yet. And even LinkedIn, limits you to 1,200 characters. So it doesn't really support nuance and real. I thought it would be worthwhile as a follow-up to our CRM implementation series to maybe share our perspective of why, when is HubSpot likely to be your better choice, and when is Salesforce likely to be your better choice?
Okay. So let's start. When is HubSpot the right choice, and why?
Well, before I do that, Jess,
Okay.
let's take a step back.
Okay.
The first decision that you're making, and I think we talked about this in the CRM series, but the first decision that you're making, whether you realize it or not, is you're making a platform decision. And so the way to figure out when is HubSpot the right choice, when is Salesforce the right choice, is really not to look at the actual CRM and not even the the tools, the features, et cetera. What you got to look at is what's the platform, and therefore what's the platform decision that you're making, right? And from my perspective in the market, and I'm talking about let's talk about companies with fewer than 5,000 employees as the rule, or organizations, because a company really can be a lot of different units that are, fewer than 5,000 employees. And let's just say, fewer than certainly 1,000 salespeople, maybe even fewer than 500 salespeople. So let's just kind of be in that space. There's two platforms. Well, there's three platforms. There's the HubSpot platform, there's the Salesforce platform, and there's the no platform platform.
Okay.
Right. I think the dominant platform right now is the no platform platform, especially in smaller business. Just because there's really been no rationale. There is no, what makes a platform a platform? What makes in my opinion, what makes a platform is things work better because of the platform. So if I use, so for example, if your tech stack is disconnected, you don't have a platform.
Yep.
Right. Because every piece is individual and distinct. It's just a series of point solutions. Now you might have a platform component, but you're not using it as a platform, so it's not a platform. Right.
Right.
So the fundamental thing is it HubSpot platform, Salesforce platform? What is the platform decision that you're making? And so fundamentally, Salesforce is what I refer to as a build-on platform. So you're going to use Salesforce as the foundation of whatever motion you're going to run.
Yep.
HubSpot is a work-in platform. And one of the things that means is that in a Salesforce platform, it is very possible. I would even say, I think more often than not, advisable that you have more people not working in Salesforce than you have working in Salesforce, right? So if you get HubSpot and most of your people are working in other tools and they're integrated with HubSpot, if you have a lot of tools, I would kind of ask the question, why did you choose HubSpot? We'll get into that later. But B, if they're not working in HubSpot, it's kind of like, well, why did you get HubSpot? Right. So
right.
And so the question is what's your underlying function? And by the way, I'm taking out things like, do you need full HIPAA compliance in your implementation? Because if you need HIPAA, then you can't even consider HubSpot right now. But I'm sure that's coming. I don't think that fundamentally changes what we're talking about.
Right.
So what, so you get like the people who invest in HubSpot, the people who invest in Salesforce, that use Salesforce effectively, that really get the juice for the squeeze, they don't use just Salesforce. They use, actually, we have in our revenue acceleration manifesto, we talk about what's happening in. It's funny, Jess. I got to our website by typing in Imagine LLC. Old habits die hard. Old habits die hard. Luckily, I'm calling it.
It gets you there.
2023. I haven't been running. So here's my here's one of my favorite tweets that I saw. Here's a list. Here are a list of future sales essentials. Sales essentials. Vidyard, SalesLoft, ReachDesk HQ, Chili Piper, Salesforce, GetAccept, Cluster, PandaDoc. I'm not 100% sure what it is. Turtle, Mailtastic, Leadfeeder, Drift. That is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 applications.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can do the core of all of that
Mm-hmm.
with HubSpot.
With HubSpot? Yeah. I was actually thinking of that as you were going through them.
Right.
Yeah.
And so does that mean you should do all of it with one application? I say all things being equal, less is better. But all things are not always equal. Right. And so so if your team size is large enough, so I SalesLoft, they're trying to be a full CRM and full cycle. SalesLoft is best for supporting your sales development motions. So if I have a sales development team of 30, 40 people, I can make an argument that I think we can do some things with HubSpot that actually make it do cooler, niftier things than SalesLoft will. Though if I've got 30, 40 sales development reps or more than that, and I'm, depending upon what your approach, et cetera, like it would make sense. And outreach is another one that would fit in there. There's a reason to get that. You're going to specialize the application. That's what you want your sales development team working from. It's built out. It's designed for that. Right. You've got Gong, which is a best in class. What Gong does is amazing. Does everybody need what Gong does? No. Most people don't even know what to do with it. But again, I'm not taking anything away. Right. So it comes down like, is HubSpot's call recording conversational intelligence in the same league or class as Gong? No, it's not. So one question I would ask is, what difference does it make? And realize that when you're using HubSpots, you're not paying for it. And it's all in one place when you're using Gongs, right? So you have all these elements that come in. So you're going to build on Salesforce, right? And so I got 40 sales development reps. I want them working this. I've got my account executives. They're out in the field. I want them doing, they're using that. And oh, by the way, the other thing, because you're building on Salesforce, the level of customization, the level of fit is a higher fidelity than anything else. So you can literally run end-to-end business processes, front stage, backstage. And I don't mean backstage acquisition. I mean backstage full operation elements, et cetera. Right. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is when we're talking about Salesforce or HubSpot, we also have to emphasize that we're talking about Salesforce CRM. Right. Because, by the way, I think, HubSpot integrates with Slack and with Teams. Right. HubSpot, I think most people would agree that the Slack integration is a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer, a little bit less friction than the Teams integration. I think there's a higher level of functionality in the Slack integration. So understand when you're talking about Slack, do you know who you're talking about?
No, who are you talking about?
Talking about Salesforce, because Salesforce owns Slack.
Oh,
right. Salesforce bought Slack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A while ago. Right.
Yeah.
When you want your BI is Tableau. You're talking about Salesforce.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now I see where you're going. Okay. Right. I didn't know where you were going with that.
But so like my point is when we're talking about this, like it's funny, we're on Team HubSpot, but we're using Salesforce. And so, also when people are saying Salesforce laid off 8,000 people, that's proof that, well, if you take a look at where most of those layoffs came, MuleSoft, Slack, like all of their acquisitions that play. Now, another thing that's been an argument has been that, the fact that there are applications like Chili Piper, SalesLoft, et cetera, is proof that Salesforce is not sufficient for the needs of today. So that, that's a limitation. So it would be a bug of the system, but it's not a bug. It's a feature, right? In that, right? So you're looking at Salesforce. If you're building on it, if you've got critical functions running through it. So like Staples is on Salesforce. Staples has core elements of their underlying procurement systems, their e-commerce systems are on top of Salesforce. Those are mission critical, can't fail. Salesforce is a beast of a tool, and in all the meanings of beast, right? You can't break it. Those are things that play to Salesforce, right? And so the other thing with Salesforce, we were on a call with somebody. They asked a question about HubSpot. They're like, "Can we change the color of the text there? We want that to be in our colors."
I get asked that so frequently. Can I change the color? I got asked that today on a call this morning.
Right. Well,
can we change the color of this, that, and the other thing?
And you know what? In Salesforce, you could. Right?
Yeah.
Can we change the name? Can we change what's up on the tab?
Yeah. No, I get asked that too. That's also one of my most common. Yep. In Salesforce, you can.
In Salesforce, you can. Right. So you can customize it. You can configure it. Etc. So because you're building on it, because it's taking a multi-application approach, right? It's going to require a much higher level and deeper level of support, right? So you're going to become an IT-centric system. Right? Salesforce is IT-centric. HubSpot is business line-centric, which means your total cost of ownership is going to be higher. If you look only at cost, it's going to be higher on Salesforce. And just to give you an idea, here's some interesting data that I got from a source recently. Let me so here's a couple data points. So Carta's Salesforce team, and by the way, so when I'm going to talk about their Salesforce team, this is on top of their revenue operations team. So they have a revenue operations team and they have a Salesforce dedicated team. So Carta has approximately 2,000 employees, 310 sales reps, 85 support reps, so roughly 400 users on Salesforce. They have a senior manager, Salesforce, 3 senior Salesforce administrators, 2 Salesforce solution architects, a Salesforce developer, and apparently they have an open role for a business analyst for Service Cloud. Right. So that's how Carta is. That's the team that Carta has built to support their Salesforce implementation. Let's look at a couple companies that maybe are a little bit smaller. ClickUp, right? So the project management tool that you decided we're moving to, right? Because we have a shirt. Didn't they give us a shirt that says "Get Shit Done"? Isn't that what their shirt said?
They did. They did give us a shirt.
So 210 sales reps.
Okay.
Right. 4 Salesforce admins. 2 Salesforce engineers. And then outside of that, 4 go-to-market system leaders. Miro, 350 sales reps. Salesforce architect. 3 Salesforce admins. 3 systems leads. Okay. You're not going to find a HubSpot support team along those lines. Those would be RevOps roles. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And by the way, in each case of what I've seen, the RevOps team is larger than the Salesforce team.
Right.
Now, I actually had somebody who responded on something about Salesforce because the person said the worst place, who should own the Salesforce implementation, and basically the worst place was if it's owned by sales. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why let the group that's impacted by it own it type thing? My Bill Parcells quote, if you're going to hold me accountable to the quality of dinner, at least you can do is let me shop for the groceries. He actually came back with something that I hadn't thought about, right? Which fits what we're talking about. And he said, look, if the only people that are using it are your sales team, then I guess, sure, who cares? But again, if you look at why would you use Salesforce, you're looking at a system that's going to be more about end to end. Right. And there are times where that makes sense, and there are a lot of times where that doesn't make sense. Right? Now, you might look at this and you might say, oh my God, and I know some people have, why in the world would anybody buy 210 sales reps outside of the cost of your tech stack? You're also going to have, that's 6 to 10 people dedicated to supporting that. Who in the world would do that? Well, guess what? If I'm trying, if my plan is to go public and I'm trying to generate billions of dollars of enterprise value, I'm spending a few $1 million to get there isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, if I have 4 Salesforce admins, 2 Salesforce engineers, 4 go-to-market systems leaders, I can probably make that shit sing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right? If you've got good strategy, if you got good business process, you know, and the fact that I can go in and configure, like I can literally make the instance act like this for this group and a different element with protecting cross, like there's all these things that come in where if that's what you're trying to do, then the cost, the squeeze is worth the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out the squeeze is justified by the juice. There you go. That's how I was trying to reverse the, right. So the dangerous, like when is Salesforce not the right one? Well, Salesforce is not the right tool, typically, if you're trying to get acceleration, if you're trying to drive adoption, if you're trying to drive utilization, and you're looking at a one tool. Like, so if you're just going to use Salesforce, then you're not going to, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze. It's not going to generate the emphasis. If you don't have a team large enough to support and a solid infrastructure, like if you're in your early days of growth and you're scaling it up, the iterations and the time that it's going to take and the issues is going to be a lot harder. Yep. Although if you're using a multi tool implementation, I want my sales development team to be able to iterate this. You're not necessarily iterating Salesforce, right? And if you think about the places where Salesforce clogs everything up, it's when Salesforce is being overused for the function. But if you're using SalesLoft, then or Outreach, then you can adjust this. And oh, by the way, the benefit of that is what you do there only impacts there, right? One of the things you have to be careful about as your team gets bigger on HubSpot and more groups start using it is what you do to support the left hand. If it's not aware, it's going to impact what's happening on the right hand, right?
Yep.
And so
we're
that
dealing
can
with
create
this in a couple of places. Yeah.
Right? That creates issues and items and things like that. And so you can't build in hard walls, right? Now, do I think companies with 200 salespeople, now 200 salespeople ClickUp that's raised, I don't know how much money they've raised. They're clearly, they're going down the hyper growth path. They're not the same thing as the, company that's been around for 30 years and has 200 salespeople.
Right.
Or the company that's the combination of 17 companies that got bought that has 200 salespeople. Right.
Right.
And so your IT team has resource constraints. And by the way, I believe in most of these cases, these Salesforce teams are in the IT group. I believe, I don't know that for sure. I know a lot of them are, but again, if I've got 4 Salesforce admins, 2 Salesforce engineers, and I can't even remember what I said about Carta. Even if you're in their IT team, they're dedicated to the Salesforce implementation. So, you're supporting that.
That's their full-time job.
Right. Yeah. Right. So when you're shared resource, when you're sharing a resource and you're coming here, and the IT team is not in a full support of the sales organization, you're out of sync between those two groups. That creates a lot of friction. You have people that don't understand the underlying business process, business motions. That creates misalignment. And so the upside of HubSpot is it is lighter. So it's faster to use. Mm-hmm. It's faster to implement. It's easier to use. But some of the easier to use, just so we're all clear, is it's not as extendable or fully flexible. So the magic of HubSpot and what makes HubSpot so easy to use is it brings a very strong point of view. One of the reasons I think that we're having this success where we're having it is because we understand how to understand the company, to take advantage of the point of view, but to not have that point of view limit what happens, right? So I have a single application my team is working in one application. So if I go on the Salesforce world and I get SalesLoft in this, and I don't have a strong back end to ensure that they are operating well together, now I'm working in multiple systems. That's going to drive down utilization. That's going to drive down adoption. Right. So I mean, I'm in the middle of a sales cycle right now with a large company that was seriously considering both. And I was talking to the HubSpot rep, and they're like, why would you go? And I said, look, if they want to make the investment in 3 full-time Salesforce admins, and I hadn't, like, some of the research I've done, I've come to learn that the teams to actually get the job done are bigger than I thought they were. Like, you know, and by the way, this company is large enough, and one of their tracks, this company's track is either IPO or large strategic sale. So I could easily make the economic justification for an allocation of resources there. And I said, look, if they feel like this is worth and needs 3 full-time, et cetera, then what we have to acknowledge is maybe Salesforce is the right choice for them. And here's the thing, because we took that approach, and it was pretty clear to me that they weren't going to do that. But instead of just saying, you know, HubSpot good, Salesforce bad, or, well, Salesforce is too complicated to work with, right? I think we led them to the place better. And oh, by the way, we learn every day, at least I learn every day from what I see someone doing with Salesforce. And I go, oh, how can we apply that? And if I was on the Salesforce side, I'd be looking at it, you know, from HubSpot. So why go HubSpot? HubSpot provides a single location. You get a suite of tools. So your core needs are addressed in a much simpler fashion. And now you can so your point applications become only those point applications that really need, you know, advanced or special capabilities. Most of them in their integrations are designed to bring their interface into HubSpot. So again, everybody's working in fewer tools, right? That's the work in. So you're working in the tool. It doesn't take, it is no code with limited exceptions. Yeah. So it becomes, you know, so a business process person rather than a tech person can manage things. It's easier to learn. It truly brings together on a single place. It's, you know, in the mid-market, it's the only single database option, which has a major benefit to it. Yeah. It allows you to allocate your resources more towards the business line, business need. You know, some people say that, you know, because HubSpot marketing and Sales Hub, et cetera, are all in the same thing, it brings together a view that you cannot get anywhere else. Well, that's not true. You can get it. You just need a much, much, much more advanced implementation to get it. And so, which is likely not realistic for somebody. But again, there's a difference between saying it can't be done versus you can't economically justify it being done. So where do you want to make? And look, when you choose HubSpot, and I feel like I'm making the Salesforce argument more today than I'm making the HubSpot argument. And some of the reasons for that is that I make the HubSpot argument all the time. I mean, I think that, you know, the vast majority of companies that are under 500 salespeople, under 1,000 salespeople, I would say unequivocally, you know, the only reason to use Salesforce over HubSpot, with some exceptions, is you don't want to invest the time in strong business process. Because I will say this, I'd rather have a shitty Salesforce implementation than a shitty HubSpot implementation. Okay.
Why is that?
And so, you know, are you familiar with the idea that every weakness is kind of like a strength overdone? So HubSpot is easy to use. Mm-hmm. It is really easy to do just about anything in HubSpot. Yeah, that's the great thing about HubSpot. The horrible thing about HubSpot is it's really easy to do just about anything, right? Yeah. So you go into somebody, you know what it's like. We go into a portal, someone that's been using HubSpot for a few years. We go in and we see they've got like 3,000 sales templates, and the most any of them have been used like 17. Like if you look at all time, this one's been sent out 17. It's the top email. If you have a sales team of 50 and you have 3,000 sales email templates aren't saving you time.
Yeah.
Right. They've got
Yep.
They've got 117 dashboards and 3,000 reports. Right. Because anyone can go in and do it. They got 13 million workflows. I know they don't have right. Yeah, and so when you have a shitty implementation, you're going to get a lot of chaos in HubSpot. In Salesforce, because it's hard to do anything, especially to do anything, really functional foundationally. Like I've got to go into the sandbox. I got to go into the back end to program something. Well, no one's doing that. So no one's going in. And so what is Salesforce? What is a bad Salesforce implementation? It's a Rolodex, right? It's a database, right? So you're not gonna you're not gonna have that same level of chaos, if you will.
I was gonna say, so a bad HubSpot implementation impacts you more than a bad Salesforce implementation.
Yeah, it creates a lot more. It creates a lot more shakiness, and yeah, it. So, but again, I think that Salesforce is designed for high complication, large mission critical. Right? So you're making that platform decision, and if you're going to make that platform decision, you've got to invest in it and support it appropriately.
Yeah.
So you're going to build a competency and an organization in supporting the tool. And if you do that, Salesforce, I think, is a very viable, very powerful tool. When you're not doing that and you're looking to drive better business process, you're looking to drive greater sales velocity, when it's more about, when the driver is the business issue, that's where I think HubSpot stands out. Now, there is an element that as companies get larger, they do become much more complicated. And so it becomes more likely, but things become more complicated, and the way that they can amortize their costs, the economic model changes sufficiently that, if you look at the total cost of the Salesforce support team at, say, an IBM, it's not having a material impact on their financials.
Right.
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 So, but so that doesn't mean that just because you get bigger, HubSpot stops making sense, right? So what you really have to do is get past the bullshit of what color shirt do you wear, right? And go into and say, what's the job that we're trying to get done? What are the key contributors? And then also, and this is what I don't think anybody spends enough time doing, is what are the limiters, right?
Yeah.
Is the limiter tech acumen? Is the limiter number of people to support? Like those types of things come in, and you've got to look at that again through the lens of the platform decision, because that decision is going to drive so many other things that you don't even know are going to come up. And you know what really tech debt is when you make the platform decision without realizing the platform decision that you made. And so now you're stuck by it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I think that the main things to consider, what I'm hearing you say is so when you're looking at Salesforce versus HubSpot, the key things to look at are your size of team, what level of support do you have on the platform, how many applications are you running, and really on the HubSpot side, if you're not clear on your business process, and I would say this too for Salesforce, but more on HubSpot, it's going to be really impactful.
I think it's both. I'm just saying, if you're going to do a shitty implementation, that right, which you shouldn't be doing shitty implementations.
And
the only other thing I would say when you say size of team, I just want to make sure we're clear. We're talking about the size of how many people are going to be dedicated to supporting the tool. We're not talking about the size of your sales team.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
All righty. With that, Jess.
Cool.
The first RevOps Show of 2023. It's in the book.
First RevOps Show is Lyft too.
There you go. Until next time.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the RevOps Show. When it comes to choosing which platform is going to be best for your company, you have to look at your overall business process and figure out which is going to be best for you to be successful. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to go subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you listen to us on. Leave us a review and share the episode. If you have any questions you would like to ask Doug or Jess about HubSpot, Salesforce, or anything else RevOps related, email me at hannah@liftenablement.com or hit us up on Twitter @demandcreator. Until next time, remember, you can't solve your upstream problems downstream.